Hello, and welcome, my friends, to the next video in the Create Better Content series, where I show you how to tap into your creativity so that you can stay consistent with your marketing and reach more customers. My name is Penny, and I'm going to be your guide through this content development process, and I'm here to teach you how to create engaging content and remarkable content, amazing content, all of those things that you use on your sales pages, your social media posts, your email sequences, all of those things that you use to reach your qualified customers. And if you want to learn more about creativity and how this can help you develop your content marketing plans, I would love to see you hit that button below and subscribe to this channel. And below in the description box, there are several links. One of the links that you'll see is for the Content Calendar Blueprint program. This is an email-based training, and it's a guide that's going to help you not just develop your content calendar that works with where your business is, your needs, and your growth, but it's going to teach you how to develop a strategy as well as the content that goes into your content calendar. Another link that you're going to see is so that you can subscribe to the Marketing Strategy Collective program. That is the group program that I have on Patreon, where you can work in a supportive group online space and actually get the help that you need for your marketing strategy. So you see the links below, and you know what to do to learn more. So today's video, I want to talk about something that I'm hearing a lot. Especially this month, we've been talking about repurposing, and then we even talked about repurposing in the Marketing Strategy Collective. And one of the things that I've heard from people, clients as well as the group members, is if I repurpose my content, aren't I just sounding, repetitive? Am I just repeating myself, and people are going to look at me and they're going to go, oh my goodness, she just shared this like a week ago. I don't want to read this anymore. Is that what's going to happen if I'm going to do this repurposing stuff that you're talking about? And my answer to them, and my answer to you, if you are asking me that same question, is nope. They are not going to be thinking that. They are not going to be feeling like that, especially if you do repurposing the right way. So today's episode is all about how to repurpose your content without being repetitive, without doing a copy and paste, because repurposing isn't about repeating the same post, the same images. It's about reaching out to new customers with a core piece of content. Because when you actually have a repurpose strategy, this means you can reuse your best content again and again and again, and it actually grows the people that are paying attention to you because of it. So let's talk about this today. I want to dig into this because I think that a lot of people don't do some repurposing work in their marketing mix because they think that they're repeating themselves. And repeating just sounds like, oh, I'm just repeating myself and people are going to think I don't have anything to say, or I'm just, trying to get my message out there and I'm just adding to the noise. Well, there's a difference between repetition and being consistent. And when we say the same thing over and over again, that's repetition. But when we say the core message in a different way, in different formats, for different people in our community, that's a repurposed content strategy. So I get that, and I'm hoping that you get that too. So most of your audience, let's just, let's just talk about this right now. Because here's the thing I want to say, and this is what I've been telling everybody in the group as well as my clients. Listen, your community is not seeing 100% of your content. They're totally busy. They're scrolling. And there's a lot of times that the algorithm is hiding stuff. So when you repurpose, you're not repeating yourself. You're not, annoying them that the same message is coming through again. You're actually giving them more chances to connect with your message. And even if they do see it again, even if they say, well, didn't she just talk about this offer before? Or wasn't she talking about this program? Or wasn't she talking about that call to action? That's perfectly fine, because repetition builds trust. It creates familiarity. And that builds recognition. That means that people are starting to recognize your marketing, your messaging that's coming through their feed, that it's coming, and when it shows up in their inbox. And let me just tell you, let me just say, when we're able to get to that space, when somebody's scrolling through Instagram or on TikTok and they recognize your information, that's a good thing, because that means that they're familiar with your business, they're familiar with who you are, and they know, like, and trust your business enough that they've seen you so many times that they recognize you. And this is a good thing. This is what we call marketing magic. This is not a mistake. So let's talk about how to repurpose without thinking that you are just doing a copy and paste and, being repetitive, right? So let's get into the how this works, because how you're going to repurpose your content and turn it into fresh, valuable content that you're going to be sharing out there is the important piece when it comes to repurposing. So one of the things that we're going to do when it comes to repurposing our content is change the format. So if you started with a blog post, you can turn it into a carousel on Instagram. If you started with a video, you can then take that information and break that video up into smaller pieces that you can utilize on social media. If you've got a podcast that has been going really well, like a podcast topic that you've been sharing with people, and a lot of people are tuning into it, you can repurpose that podcast by putting it into an email with a personal story. So the idea with repurposing is the same core idea, the same message. We're just delivering it in a new format on a new platform. That's what repurposing is. And when we do that, and when we look to new platforms and we look to new formats, what we're doing is we're changing the angle of how to repurpose. So let's say that your original thing that you're going to repurpose is a blog post, and it maybe has like 5 steps to do something that's really important to your community. So how do you change the angle? You could take one of those steps, because it's still part of the core message, and you can repurpose one of those steps. You could repurpose them into an Instagram reel. You could repurpose it into a LinkedIn post. You can change the hookup to it. Instead of it being 5 things, you could focus on that one particular tip and the results that people are going to see. And that's how the repurposing evolves. You're still talking about the core message, but the entry point shifts because you're using a different platform. You're using a different program. The hook kind of changes too, because of where you're going to be sharing that information, and it helps to create the story of your messaging, so to speak. It just kind of evolves as you're moving into each different way that you're repurposing that one piece of content. Another thing that you can do to repurpose your content is maybe you wrote something like a blog post that was really, really great last year, and now something's changed in your industry, your business, or even the world in general. You can add a new introduction. You can tie it into what's happening now. You can call it a quick update and reflect about how your thinking has grown and has changed and has shifted since you first wrote this, and suddenly it's fresh content again that you can now repurpose. So there's a lot of things that we can do when it comes to repurposing. We could do things like we could pair it with a new story. Let's say you've got a really great tip or a teaching point that is just resonating with your community. So what you can do is you can tell it in a different story, using a new client example. Pull a metaphor from your life. Tell them about what happened last week, and that's what brought up this old tip back into focus for you. People love stories. They remember stories. They lean into them when somebody is telling a story, versus doing something like when they feel like they're being sold to, they immediately go, oh, I'm being sold to. Oh, hold on a second. But when you're telling a story, that's a whole different scenario, because people are more inclined to open up and listen, because we want to know what's happened. We want to know the ending of the story. We become engaged at that moment. And when we become engaged, that's the point when we are more apt to take action. So don't be afraid to reuse your ideas and rotate out with different stories. And before I get into the next step, I do want to remind you to make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any one of these videos that I'm going to be doing. Because the more people who subscribe, the more people that I can reach with these real marketing tips for small business owners like yourself. All right, so if you are ready and you're on board with your content, for a content repurposing plan, let's talk about how you can pull that together. So when you're planning your content each week or month or however you sit down and plan your content, I want you to think about how you can start putting content repurposing plan into your marketing mix. So here's what we would start. We would start out with, you've got your whole thing that you're doing. Maybe you've got some new videos, you've got a blog post that you're writing, and all these other things that you're working on this week that you're going to be sharing, social media posts, so on and so forth, emails, all those things. So one of the things I want you to do is I want you to think about, how can I bring repurposing into my content, either this week or maybe for this month. And to do that, you want to start with a core piece. Maybe it was like a great video that got a lot of views on YouTube, or a blog post that is consistently driving traffic to your website, or maybe even you did a live stream and a lot of people showed up and asked a lot of questions. So take that core piece of content, and from there, I want you to look at it and think about anything between 3, 4, 5, maybe 3 to 5 ways that you can repackage this. You could take the blog post and turn it into short video clips. You could take the video and create a quote graphic from it and talk about, what was a main tip that you learned, with the call to action going back to watching the rest of the video. You could promote the live stream in an email story and talk about the questions that people asked you, and go back to that and say, if you didn't get a chance to see this live, here's the replay and you can watch it. You could do a checklist style carousel type of thing, a short LinkedIn tip. All of these things are things that we can do to repurpose this core piece of content. And I want you to think about it from this place, that you're not just creating more content for the sake of creating more content because I want to make sure that I've got things in my content calendar. You're actually stretching the value of what you have already used and what you've already shared. And when you can take this and repurpose this content like this, this is how you stay consistent. This is how you can keep content fresh and continue to be effective, especially with a core piece of content that you already know is resonating. So if you're on board with this and you are looking to add a repurposing plan into your marketing, I want you to think about how you can do this and stop worrying about sounding repetitive. And if you feel like that's coming on, I want you to pause and remind yourself of these facts. You're creating consistency, a consistent marketing message. You're not just posting just to post. Your community, your customers, they need to hear things more than once. We cannot just tell somebody one thing. Statistics are showing us, and scientific studies are showing us, that a person needs to hear something anywhere from 7 to 10 times before they take action. So you repurposing this one piece of content is actually helping your community continue to hear your message, because there's always a new way to say this new powerful core message that you're trying to share. So I want you to remember this, because repurposed doesn't mean being repetitive. A repurposing content strategy means that you are being strategic, that you are being creative with the ways that you are repurposing and sharing this content. But when you have a plan in place, it also means that you are being intentional. Because when you transform these original ideas, these core messages that you know are already resonating with your community, and when you do things like that, when you're able to repurpose them, you're actually bringing that message back out and serving your community in new and valuable ways, because you're ensuring that A, they are going to see your message more than once, which is what you need for sales, and B, you're continuing to provide them with valuable education information that they need to help with their business, with their life, whatever it is that the solution is at your business that they do. So the next time that you're tempted to start from scratch because you think that every time I put a new piece of content in there, I've got to start from scratch, I want you to take a pause. And I want you to look back at something maybe you've already created, something that's already resonating, something that's already driving traffic to your website. And think about how you can create a repurposing strategy like the ones that I just described in today's video and give these ideas, these amazing ideas of yours, new life. You can change the format, you can shift the angle, you can refresh the content, you can share it in a fresh story. Because what's going to happen when you do something like this, it creates more consistency with your messages. Because being consistent isn't about doing more. It's about getting more from what you've already done so that you can reach more customers. So thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. If this conversation has helped you to look at your marketing differently, I would love for you to give it a share and let other fellow business owners know about the work that I'm doing here, and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you do want some help with this process, we are focusing on this in the Marketing Strategy Collective this month. We're doing repurposing in the workbook, and you've got tools, you've got prompts, everything that you need to repurpose your plan. So I want you to think about how you can build a repeatable content repurposing system that's actually going to save your sanity when it comes to your marketing. So take a look at the links below and learn more about what it's like to be in the Marketing Strategy Collective, where you can stop working in a solo bubble and work in a collaborative space to get the help you need with your marketing efforts. Because you are magnificent, my friend. And let me be the first to say, I'm proud of you. Until next time.